everybody, to the Get the Bag podcast. I'm your host, Gladia Castro. Got my co host, Tim Park. We're
What's
at
good?
episode 52.
Yeah, love it.
Man, we're approaching, Thanksgiving's over. We're now approaching the holiday, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever holiday you celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
And heading towards the end of the year. This is a time everyone's focusing on their goals, where it's like, oh, I shoulda, coulda, woulda, um, starting the year strong. So really exciting stuff we're going to talk about today. But before we get into that, hit the like, subscribe, follow us on IG, uh, TikTok, you name it. All our stuff should be in the show notes. Tap in with us. We want to hear from you. And throughout this conversation that we have, please post your questions.
Yep.
That kind of, any questions you have, that will kind of help us in helping you. So today's topic is I think is a really important one given, the where the state of the economy is,
Mm-hmm.
the recession.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a consumer or are you an investor? What's the difference between the two? Have you been a consumer, which a lot of us have been before
Right.
being introduced, or um, have you always had that investor kind of mentality where just want to make the most out of something, or always make as they say, your money work for you and not the other way around, right? And work for your money. I think that's kind of also a very similar um, aspect to it. So we're going to break that down today, give you some tips, some recommendations that have helped us and helping us along the way. Because I'll tell you what, like, I've in my experience, I've been a consumer. I mean, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
admit it. I never really had that investor. I was never taught that. I always thought I had to be a certain caliber, a certain type of person to be known as an investor. So, really excited to break this down and see what we've learned. But um, would you say, Tim, you've been a consumer investor? Like, what's kind of been your scope in the past, and kind of where are you at right now?
I think I've always like, especially early in my life, I've always been a consumer because that's what you've been taught. I think a lot of it is that um, you know society around you or how you grew up or whatever. You need these new clothes or you need this or we can't afford that. It's always been on the consumer side. It's not till I was older, you know, um, you know, basically middle age before I got to know like how investing is crucial and how much investing your mindset changes on from a consumer mindset to an investor mindset and how you'll have your money work for you instead of spending that money.
Right. When you say middle age, I'm like, don't age yourself now.
For sure, for sure. So, I mean, like too is like I'm not, I might not look it, whatever good genes or whatever it is, but
Right.
I'm up there in age, but at the same time, it's like all that experience has, just helped me be where I'm at, and a lot of, that's why a lot of young people, it's like there's so much information out there right now that
Right.
they don't have to rely on what their surroundings are. They can educate themselves now to help them in the future for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, I mean, I'm not a spring chicken. Like, I'm up there too. And
No, 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 no.
yeah, genes though, genes do work,
Right, right.
or help, I should say. But yeah, I mean, growing back I mean, when I was younger, even in my 20s, like the information, like the internet age was just kind of really getting going. Before, I remember where it's like if I wanted if I wanted to find some information, you had to go to the library or you had to dial up, get to the house, and dial something up. And even then it wasn't, you had Ask Jeeves. We're really aging ourselves here. But, I think um America itself is built on capitalism. Therefore,
Mhm.
it's built on training us to consume.
Mhm.
Like, eh, I mean, give it Black Friday, for example. Um, do we really need to be shopping? Do we really need to buy some stuff? Maybe on some things, but it's like it's a whole training us to consume, to buy, spend our money on these companies. And I think you and I were talking about this just before we got on was, all right, when I buy Nike, am I also buying Nike stocks? Like, how
Mhm.
many pairs of shoes have we bought from like a particular brand, right? Like Adidas, Nike, like
Seriously.
those are and like if we would have even spent half of that into those their particular stocks, it's a different story. I mean, I was even talking about the Apple phone, the iPhone.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
I got the new iPhone probably when maybe a couple years after it came out because it was a little expensive at first. I
Sure.
mean, it still is expensive.
It is, yeah.
Um, but I got it like in 2010, 2011. Like, had I invested stock then, oh man, like the dividends paying out at this point is,
Right.
so it's just I lack the education. So um, I think it's just you got to start with your habits first and like your
Mhm.
knowledge as well as understanding like and acknowledging, okay, I've been a consumer, so like what can I do to invest my money, right?
Mhm.
And it's funny that we're talking on this topic because over the weekend I watched this documentary out on Netflix, which I recommend to everybody, called Get Smart with
Mhm.
Money. Have you seen
Mhm.
it?
I haven't watched the whole thing. I think I started it, but I didn't finish it.
Yeah, it was really, really insightful because the way they had it is they had four different, they have these four basically finance gurus who, are, um, they have their own business in like consulting on like
Mhm.
finances and stuff, and they're successful in their own right. And then they asked people to do a contest to, say their reason, like why do they want to participate, and then the winners would be chosen to these specific consultants who would work with them for a year for
Mm.
free
Mhm.
on like their finances. And so the four different people that were chosen were two totally different scenarios. One was like a family that made good money. That's like, we want to make our money work for us. Like, we don't want to just keep spending. Another one was like, I'm in so much debt. The other one was an athlete. He's a football athlete
Mm.
who got dropped by a team. And so he got his signing bonus, and now it dwindled down to 200,000 that he's living off of,
Wow.
which, for a lot of us, it's not that. But like when you're a football player, like,
Yeah.
your amount of money dwindles down really, really quickly. And I think the last one was like kind of like a starving artist that is working job to job. So it's a great little scenario. So anybody can be in those situations. And they just talked about just basic habits that you can start. And so, that really sort of inspired me on like, okay, well, what am I doing with my funds? What, like,
Mhm.
how is my money working for me? And obviously, investing in real estate, investing in my business is a great start, right? But you have to,
100%.
you know, find other ways. You can't put your eggs all in one basket. Um, and so we have crypto out there, and that also kind of brings up the point of distraction too. There's so many
Mm.
distracting points. It's like, all right, I want to invest in crypto. Okay, everyone's saying I should invest here and here. So that's where knowledge really kicks in. So I would say the first tip would be become a consumer of knowledge, right?
Mm.
Instead of products.
I love that.
So instead of like paying Amazon for stuff, like learn about the Amazon stocks or learn how you can invest in that. Instead of buying Nike, learn about the Nike stocks, where you're at, or learn about the stock market, or learn about real
Mhm.
estate. I think knowledge is the key, and we underestimate ourselves. But if you were to equip yourself with knowledge, you're going to
Mhm.
make smarter, better decisions related to money.
Right.
So I would say that be the first tip.
No, I get that because when I started first understanding, like, investing and what to invest in and all the people that were involved in investing is invest in something that you already know,
Hmm.
and already purchase. Like, the reason why you purchase that product is because of whatever brand loyalty you have to them or because you like the product, or you know,
Right.
so um, from the clothes that you wear to the digital products that you purchase, that's a good way to know what you're going to be investing in. And I know, like, even like with Warren Buffett, he doesn't do the buy, low and sell high, right? He doesn't do that. He looks at the financials of a business and decides, hey, they have good management, they have good books, it's going to be a lasting brand, and I'm going to invest my money in that because he gets dividends and payouts when they do good.
Right.
So he gets that. Of course, he has a lot more money to invest than we do, but at the same point, it's you can take that same kind of mindset. Like, if you're really interested in a company, research the company, know
Right.
what they're going to be doing, and that's where you want to put your money into, and learn about how much dividends they do pay out quarterly, or what. So, because some of these brands have been in in business for a long, long time, so they pay out a lot of a bigger percentage of the dividend, so
Yeah, absolutely. I think just curiosity. We're on our phones anyways, like, right? We're
yeah,
consuming, we were talking about this earlier in our morning call. Like, we're consuming content constantly. But
yeah,
it's like usually it's garbage, right? It's trash. It's
mhm,
not to say animal videos are trash, but like but just, you're just consumed in it. So like, be consumed in some really good content as well, or really good knowledge that you can gain. And that's a great tip on Warren Buffett. And I think that was mentioned in this documentary as well, is you want to create these habits now, where it's like starting off like maybe once a week, take 30 minutes to learn about a company,
mhm,
or hey, I know these well-known companies, Amazon, Tesla,
mhm,
Twitter, whatever the case may be. Like, let me educate myself on the dividends. But I think, one issue too, Tim, is that again, people want to get rich quick. And even
mhm,
Warren Buffett, this guy, he's all about the slow game. Like, he's
mhm,
he's gained his money by doing it the slow way, which
yep,
people, it's not sexy to market. You don't want to be like, hey, you can get really rich, but it can take forever. Like, no, I
mhm,
don't hear that anybody talking about that on IG or anywhere, because it's like it's you're not going to sell that way. So I think you also kind of send those expectations of like, hey, I'm sending this money and my money's going to work for me. It's not a
mhm,
kind of thing where you look at it every day. You just kind of set it and forget it kind of
right,
technique. But no, I think that's huge in just kind of breaking your habits. And I think that was kind of the second point is, or second tip is tracking your expenses, like really creating a budget. So seeing like printing out a bank statement, or looking at your Amazon account, which sometimes is a little embarrassing, or like looking at your last purchases for the last 3 months, maybe be like, what the hell did I buy? Like, and just looking at that and seeing what can I cut out,
yeah,
because you want to take you want to I think in the documentary it talked about your living expenses, your car or transportation, and your food. Those are the three biggest expenses, right? So
mhm,
if you can keep those as low as possible, you're opening up more money to invest in your business, to invest in stocks, crypto, whatever it is.
mhm,
Um, you want to find ways to really stretch your money in that sense. So that was a big one for me too, on like identifying like, okay, where can I cut costs? That really helps me out, and this will really start building habits, because with
mhm,
anything you want it to be consistent. You don't want to be frugal one month and then go all out the next month and then go frugal again. Like, it's really building these like really smart habits that even when you do have the money, when you are successful, you're not falling back into the trap. You're consistently, it's just building that foundation that goes into it. So that was one thing. The other tip I found is identifying and improving your spending weaknesses. So that's kind of related to the
mhm,
second tip, right? Like, where are you weak at? Like, is it Amazon? I know that's a lot of us. Is it Target? I know not everybody can go into Target, right? And like spend over $100. Like it's so hard for me sometimes. It's like
Mhm.
I go into, get like three things and I come out with like 10 things.
I
And
know,
it's like,
exactly.
that's just how Target gets you. But hey, like that got me, like now that I'm sort of in that investor mode, I'm also learning like, um, okay, Target sucks. Like what's going on with Target, and like understanding the trends. So it's like this curiosity. Yeah, girl, like Amazon, man. But that's also gets you thinking like like Amazon stock took off after
Yeah,
COVID,
I did.
because you know what? Nobody's shopping out at stores. They're all shopping inside. So, or online. So these sort of trends, you're gonna once it presents itself, you're gonna start noticing these trends, and you're gonna get ahead of the game, ahead of everybody else who's still behind consuming.
Mhm.
Um, so I'd go with that as a third tip. The fourth tip: get all bad debt out of out of it, out of sight. Right?
Mhm. Mhm.
I've been I'm guilty of this in the past, is credit card debt
Yeah.
on buying stupid stuff, right?
Mhm.
Um and I think that's what holds people back too, because when you have bad debt, debt is good when you spend it on good stuff, right? But when you have the
Mhm.
bad stuff,
Yeah.
like
It can
shoes.
hurt you. If you don't know how to use it is and I think that's 100% most people that they think it's like cash when it's not, and then when you don't have it and you can't pay it back, then that's when it hurts you, right?
Right, and then you're talking about interest rates.
Mhm.
um it's a that's where you really want to build that habit of paying off your debt, or if you are going to use your credit card, paying it off the same month, so that you're not charged interest on it. All these things make a huge difference in just building these really healthy money habits that a lot of us didn't come from. Like,
Mhm.
my parents, my dad was really frugal, but he never really like kind of taught me what it was. Like my mom was complete opposite, like, spending credit cards. When you don't really have role models to kind of go off of, or
Right.
the knowledge, you don't know any better. You're just like, okay, well, this is what it's meant to be. I'll pay it back some point. It's just you want to set yourself up, because but at the same time, you don't want to think like this is it. Like, oh, I'm just going to be stuck paying credit card bills. Like, you can tackle it down by building these habits and putting in that extra income towards paying off your debt.
Mhm.
To then eventually you get all these freed up money to use, because you've paid off all your debts, to start investing as well, doing all these things. Um, and then the other thing is, the last thing in terms of investing, is automating your savings and then investing that excess income. So automate savings. What do I mean by that? One thing in the documentary too that I've started doing, that also is suggested in the business, as well, as you have these different bank accounts, right? So you have your savings account, you have your checkings, you have your tax account, you have your operating expenses. Anytime you get paid, you should diversify, or like put your money in different buckets, so that you don't
Mhm.
spend it. The problem
Mhm.
is sometimes our money is sitting in one account that does everything, right? It pays
Yeah.
our bills. We use it to pay for stuff. So when we see like, okay, oh, I'm good. I just got paid. You're gonna want to spend it, right? So
Yeah.
if you're able to put it in, you can automate it with your bank. For almost every bank can do this, where it's like, all right, every time I get paid, I'm putting this money in these buckets, so I know I'm not touching this, or this is my emergency fund.
Mhm.
I'm never touching that. So that way, it's out of sight, out of mind. So it's the same thing with like or the business that we've talked about, right? The profit first.
Mhm.
Um, is putting your money aside, especially for taxes come tax season, because then it's like, all right, I'm ready to go. There's no surprises. I planned for this. So it's all planning. Like all of this that we're talking about, it's all planning, and really changing your mindset of like, I'm not meant to make money to spend it. I can spend it on things, but you just have to be smart with it. You have to make your money work for you. And I think by doing these kind of 5 steps, you're able to set yourself up so that you can then have that extra income to
Mhm.
make your money work for you.
Yeah, I think those are all, like, quality steps and things that people should do, and along with the budget, a lot of people don't budget, and that has to do a lot with the consumer spending, and, they spend more than they should, and they're not budgeting for regular expenses. Just like when you're treating your business, you need to track what you're spending on
Right.
marketing, just, kinda everyday, meals, anything that you're spending, you personally or in your business, it needs to be tracked and seeing where you can cut costs a lot, and then where you can invest some of that excess money that you have instead of, you have these buckets. One of those buckets should be, an investment bucket, and
Right.
that bucket gets up to a certain amount, and that's when you invest in whatever. Let's say, stocks or real estate or whatever the case may be, but don't let that excess money just sit in the bank because the bank
Right.
is using that money to lend out to make them money on 7% or 8%, whatever the interest rates are now.
Hmm.
They get a piece of that and you don't get maybe 1% or something like that,
It's probably
maybe, or
less.
half a percent or something. So why don't you put that money into, let's say, real estate where you can get a return of, maybe double digit percentages or something like that. So,
Right.
or even more, right? So, it just all depends on your strategy and what um your focus is, but, you know, that's when we say is, like, have the money work for you, and, uh, I think also I wanted to kinda bring out is, like, consumer versus, investing. I think it's important to invest in yourself too,
Yeah.
um, because when
Absolutely.
you're a consumer, you're not investing in yourself, you're always investing in other things, um,
Yeah.
people or, products.
Companies.
Yeah. So, you need to spend the money to actually educate yourself that in return will bring you more money because now you've, educated yourself on a new skill, educated yourself on a new industry that actually will bring you more money. So I think that's when you change your mindset for as an investor, that needs to also switch.
That's a great tip. I think we've almost talked about it in like every episode
Mhm.
so far is like you are your best asset, right? And so many people take that for granted or they don't have the confidence and think like, "Oh no, I'm cool here," or they just never reach their potential and it's like there's just so much you can do with the knowledge that you have. Like I feel like even the last 2 years that I've, like, been exposed to real estate, I so there's so many opportunities now that I see that I didn't see before because
Mhm.
of that knowledge. So, regardless of whatever budget you have, there's something for you to learn. YouTube is obviously the quickest route. If it's free,
Mhm.
but if you can invest in a course, invest in a community. So obviously for us, we're in the Charged Up group.
Mhm.
But it's like there's so many others too. Obviously, you want to vet them out. I'm in the women in real estate group as well, because it's like you want to diversify your knowledge as well, right? So it's like um, you want to learn once you kind of established something or like understand something, you're like, okay, I'm ready to hear about something else. Some people, I know you've been in like different types of courses. Some people do credit courses, some people do
Mhm.
insurance. There's just so many things, like whatever, sparks your curiosity. Obviously for us it was real estate. But there's a vast, like real estate is so vague. There's so many things you can do with real estate. Um, so it's like, yeah, take that plunge. So many people don't. They rather
Mhm.
invest in somebody else's dreams than their own.
Yeah, well, that's a bar right there.
I mean, that's what we've been doing. That's what I had been doing. And I finally realized like that enough is enough. Like what about me? What about my family? So it's like
Mhm.
take that $100 that you usually would have spent on whatever, $100 a month on shoes or just bull crap and invest it in something, right? Like
Mhm.
it's there's no reason why you can't come up with $100 a month or $50 a month on something, right? On
Mhm.
your education. It's just because people don't want to be uncomfortable.
Right.
You have to get uncomfortable to take that next step.
And I think that's when you grow, like, when you're uncomfortable and you're making decisions based on, your next move and how you're going to get that next check or whatever the case may be or get out of your situation. You definitely learn from that, and you know what you're good at and what you're not good at, and you pour into your strengths and and then kind of bet on yourself and learn more and pour more investment into yourself, and your income will grow based off of that skill that you have, and then use that money that you have to invest in other things and learn more about those things, and you
Hmm.
know to just slowly but surely grow your out of your situation.
Right. And that's all it is, guys. It's we talked about the mindset shift. It's the same thing like with if you're like, okay, I'm done consuming, I want to be an investor,
Mhm.
you want to really think about like take a look at yourself, audit like what's happening in my life, like what's my expenses look like. I want to start with like the end goal, like I want to invest this much a month in whatever it is. Like take a look at it, take a look at your expenses, like where can I stretch my money, where can I cut costs, um, and use that extra money to invest in yourself, to invest in other stocks, company, real estate, whatever it is. It's really that simple. I think people just like anything overcomplicate it. But take that chance on yourself. It's just a course. Like, hey, how many times like we've bought something that we regretted or we're like,
Mhm.
you know, I just won't spend like, what's the worst thing that can happen by betting on yourself or just learning something new and like, getting uncomfortable for a little bit. I think that's the biggest thing is like that mindset of getting over being uncomfortable.
Mhm. And I think like one thing is that when you do kind of give back, or I always say like kind of give back to yourself because you're investing in yourself, and you realize something about yourself that gives you the confidence that you can achieve your ultimate goal, right? Whatever that goal is.
Right.
And when you have that confidence, it makes a world of difference in your production of your work, family life, your state of mind
Yeah,
personally,
your health.
your health, all of that. So, you know, I know that like it's consumer versus investor, but you have, people, I feel like that people that consume a lot aren't really maybe healthy. They're suffering in some aspect of their life.
Mm,
Maybe I could be wrong, but I've seen that before. So, but I think when you have that shift in investor mentality, you kind of grow as a person. You try to figure out what's the best way for you to succeed. So you figure out a lot of things about yourself, like even
mhm.
like within real estate. When I started it, I learned a lot about myself, even though I started other businesses. Like,
Yeah.
it opened up a whole new side of me that I didn't think, I had, or, I would experience. So it's just interesting how that just unfolds.
Yeah, I think again, once you um give life a chance to just let things happen that's out of your control, like once you
Mhm.
start like trusting, I think Chris was like big on this, like trusting your hand, like
Mm.
trust you, like you got you,
Mhm.
like just let the opportunities come to you. Like
Right.
it will happen. And I think the biggest thing too with like people who are consumers, and I've done this too, is when they consume something, they want to justify. And that
Mm.
was something that really stood out to me in this documentary, is like because we're so stressed at work, or maybe we're unhappy, kind of related to what you said, we want to be like, well, I worked really hard for this, so I deserve
Mm.
to pay for this.
Mm.
Or I had a really rough day, so I deserve these pair of shoes. I deserve this. Like, you justify these reasons to consume, when
Right.
it's like, well, what really are you? What, like, you really have to ask yourself, like, do you really need this? Do you really want it?
Mm.
I think there was like acronym for it. I can't remember, but like, when you're want to consume something, you have to ask yourself, what is it that what am I justifying? Like, why
Mhm.
am I
Right.
justifying? Like, not to say you don't deserve something, like, of course you do, but it's usually for the wrong reasons,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
You have to work on yourself first.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think, yeah, you're absolutely right, like, some people like, now when I purchase things, it's not, like, because I deserve it, it's more like, okay, I either, 1, need it, or,
Mhm.
it's part of what I need for every day, or, um, if it's something that I've always wanted, and then I've achieved, enough funding to do that. So that's a milestone for me. So that's why I was like, okay, then I'll pull the trigger on that.
Right.
But it's not like, um, I've worked so hard, now I deserve a Rolex watch. No,
Right.
it's no, hey, I've always wanted a luxury watch. I've, actually, enable and have the funding to do that, and, it also is an investment, so,
Right. Yeah, it's
so I
true.
I think of it like that too, so it's just, I don't know, people, I think your just mind shift just changes when you have that investor mentality, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And like Teresa says right here, discipline is a key.
Mhm, exactly.
No more shoes for you. There you go. You got enough shoes.
I get enough
Yeah,
shoes, for sure.
let's invest
I
in
didn't
some
buy no more stock.
stock. Yeah, exactly. And somebody was like, "Hey, if you are gonna buy shoes, you gotta, you know, come with the
Match.
same energy for stocks.
Yeah,
Like, if you're gonna buy some Nike shoes, invest in some stock." So maybe that's a way maybe to level out,
yeah.
um, but yeah, no more justifying of like, "Hey, man, I hate my boss, so I'm gonna, do this." It's just looking at it the wrong way. It's just a wrong mindset to have with that.
Yeah,
But uh really great episode today.
I
Really
love
hope you
it.
guys got a lot out of it. Um, you know, start thinking about that. Now anytime you look at your Amazon cart and be like, all right, what am I justifying here?
Mhm.
Do I really need it? Is this, helping me towards my goals? Then, just let it chill, or put it in the safe for later or something. But do invest in yourself. I think that's the biggest thing we want to leave you with. But really hope you guys got a lot out of it. I'll kind of recap the tips. I think the biggest thing is obviously investing in yourself, in the knowledge
Mhm.
of products instead of consuming them, tracking your expenses, identifying your spending weaknesses. So I think we uncovered that a little bit. Obviously, getting out of debt, and automating your savings and investing the rest of it. So um, I think hopefully at the end of this, you guys that were consumers become investors. We're still working
Yes.
towards it, so
Yeah,
I'm
of
not going to
course.
say we're perfect and straight up investors. I think we're leaning more towards that with the knowledge that we built. But really hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Next week is a really special episode, and I really hope you guys capture it.
Yep,
Staying tuned for it. It's our 1 year anniversary. It's almost
yep.
like a little wedding anniversary,
I
right? Like,
know. Woo woo.
get the bag podcast 1 year. 1 year ago, next week, we had our first episode. So we've come a long way. So it's going to be a really awesome episode on just recapping what we've learned, the kind of
Mhm.
running a podcast, and kind of what we have coming up ahead. So don't miss out on that one. But
I
again,
can't believe
appreciate you
it's been a
guys.
year.
I know, man, a
That's
year just
crazy.
flies by. I remember when it was just January.
I
So,
know.
this year has flown by, but super excited, like where we've kind of landed and where we're going. So, make sure you guys tune in for that. But appreciate you guys tuning in today. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll catch y'all next week.
All right. See y'all.
Peace out.